My talk for today is about my talk. Wait, how do I do that? How do I give a talk about the talk I'm giving? But yet, that's what I want to talk to you about today, is about my talk that I'm giving you today. So, this week has been fascinating for me. I have, for those of you who don't know, and probably that's almost all of you, my way of putting together a talk is usually Sunday afternoon. I go for a walk after, and I start thinking about what theme I would like to talk about the next week. And I walk and I ponder and I look around at all the greenery and I walk and I ponder. And something comes to me, and then on Monday I work it a little bit more, and Tuesday I start getting stories. And usually once I have the theme, that's when I start recognizing that theme happening for me that week, which is why I'm able to bring to you on Sunday what happened this past week, is because of the theme I come up with on Sunday and start watching out for as the week goes on. So by Wednesday or Thursday, I've got stories, and this happened, and then this happened, and this whole thing just unfolds, and I keep working it. I mean, I work this talk for you guys. This isn't like I get up here and just like throw it off the top of my head, you know. But this Sunday, last Sunday, it was about 30 degrees. And the air quality was 10 plus, where 2 was good. And so I didn't go out. Plus, we had company. Anybody who was here last Sunday knows that Ash's kids were here. And so they were in our small home. So there wasn't much place at home to walk around and think about all this either. And so I didn't know how to go about working up this talk for you guys. Right? And so what I did, and this is where spiritual practice becomes so beautiful. And I am so grateful for having practiced so many years, because I could be there on Sunday at home as the kids are watching TV and my mind is just scrambling about in terms of trying to think, and just going, okay. Perfect and right time, highest and best, and trusting in all that. That somehow this is all going to work out in a way that I can't figure on. And so I was able to be really calm about it. You know, not get all twisted up like, oh my God, I don't have space to do this. None of that happened. Now, 10 years ago, I would have been blowing my stack. I got work to do. I got to get out there. I got to get this done. I got to make sure I'm good for these guys next Sunday. I don't have time for this. Or am I the only one who's done that about a project that needed to get done? You know, so there it is. There's this project. We have these projects that come up in our lives. And then what do we do with that? Well, here we teach spiritual practices that create joy-filled lives. And one of these practices I've been practicing for a long time, one of the beauties of Science of Mind is that it's really about, the first step of it is about reframing. Because you look at a circumstance and you think, this stinks. How am I going to get my work done? What am I going to do with this? And then, because if you've taken any of the classes here, you know that the first thing we know to do is go, wait a minute, that's just one way of looking at this. And the reframe that I have gone into the deepest is highest and best in the perfect and right time. And the trust in that. Trusting in highest and best in perfect and right time. Not so easy to do sometimes when you're up against an obstacle, right? Because it takes practice. The thing about this is it's simple. Not easy, but simple. And it's a skill. One of the things I've noticed about spirituality is a lot of times we mystify it, when in fact, there are some incredibly simple skills. And one of them is when things are wigging out, things are going south, is use that moment to remember it's going to be okay. Because things work out in perfect and right time for the highest and best in ways I can't imagine. And so I was able to rest in that. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where it was still 30 degrees and still plus 10. Hadn't been out of the house. Getting a little stir crazy. But during the week, because and so I had to keep going back to the practice, right? It wasn't like I did it once on Sunday and then I was fine all week. Oh no, there were times I could feel myself starting to freak out. Have you done that? You know, you're like even fine, okay, this is going to be fine, but then as things get closer to your deadline, you start getting a little, or am I the only one? You know, so then you got to keep repeating the practice. That's what I did. Over and over and over. Every time I needed it to calm myself going, no, I'm going to have this talk. This is going to work out. I really trust in this. And I'd seen it work out so many times through the years that by now it really wasn't as hard as it was 25 years ago. If you're just starting out on this path, or you've spent your time studying instead of practicing. I know so many people who spend their time studying the science of mind, studying the spiritual practices, reading about them every day. But when it comes down to that rubber hits the road moment, that's when you need it. That's when it's time to practice. And that's what I did all week long. And so Monday, Johan went in the hospital. And Ash and I went over to visit him. And afterwards, Alita told me that it was a magical experience for him and was really supported his healing. On Friday, when I spoke to Alita, he said that Johan was doing well enough where they were going to show up on Sunday. And because of the compassionate care team, she had never felt so loved and a part of a community. You know? I got to experience that this week and I would have missed that if I was so caught up in getting my project done of having this talk ready for you, right? On Wednesday, I had an MRI. Now, some of you know last summer I was in the hospital and they told me I was going to die, and then I didn't, and they're still mystified by that, and so they keep wanting to do tests on me to go, why didn't you die? And so they put me in an MRI on Wednesday, and I was in there for 45 minutes. But because I've been practicing meditation for decades now, that time passed like it was nothing. If you've ever done an MRI, you know you're in this tiny space with these really loud noises. And there was a time in my life where I would have gone insane in there. And instead, they go, the test is now over. And we have rarely seen somebody as calm as you go through that. Practice, 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 right? That's the whole thing about this, is how do we practice? How do we bring it into those moments that then look like things are not working out? You know, do we get stuck in that mindset of, oh my God, how am I going to get this done? Oh my God, how is this going to work out? Things aren't working. If you get stuck in that mindset, you are sending out the energy of things aren't working. If you shift into a place of trust, And in the beginning, I, like many folks, just hoped it would work. Hoped these teachings would work. I didn't know, hadn't done it for very long in the beginning, like everything else you do in the beginning, you haven't done it very long, right? Then after a while, I built to a place of feeling the faith around it, right? Maybe you've been in a space of times of blind faith. But if you keep working it and you keep practicing, then all of a sudden, a trust really does sink in of course, things are going to work out. Of course. That happened for Catherine about a month ago, where I woke up a Saturday morning with a fever and called her and said, I need you to do the talk tomorrow because I don't want anybody catching my fever. And she had a moment of freaking out. Who could blame her? And then calmed down into that place of trust, of highest and best, of knowing that, and showed up on Sunday and gave you guys a great talk. Because she's been practicing this stuff for decades. You know, that's where it's at. That's what I want to invite and inspire you to do, is to get that these practices. Now, the other thing about these practices is, what I noticed for myself is, like I was saying at the beginning of my talk, about my talk, is that my first go-to in my spiritual practice is always walking. And if that was the only practice I had, I'd be screwed. So having a toolbox full of practices is important. You know, knowing that you have more than one to rely on when one isn't working for you. I know people who get into a spiritual practice and they go, this isn't working, instead of, oh, that maybe there's something else that would work better for me right now. So I have walking. I have my affirmations. I have meditation. I have a toolbox. I invite you to have a toolbox. How many here do yoga? Right? How many here meditate? Right. These are good. How many use affirmations? That's good. That's a toolbox. Now you got different things to pull at different times. How many journal? Right. That is a spiritual practice. How many like hot baths? Spiritual practice, baby. I'm just saying. You do, you know, and having that, knowing, okay, this isn't, I'm not, the journaling isn't working right now, I'm taking a hot bath. You know, I mean, whatever. Instead of staying in a state, the worst thing you can do is stay in a state of, oh my God, this isn't working, being in worry, stress, upset, frustration. Those are your red flags that it's time for spiritual practice. If you feel frustrated at all, if you're worried, if you're upset, if you're angry, these are the times not to get into, this is why I'm having these feelings. It's the time to remember, good time for spiritual practice. Look at me, I'm frustrated. Good time for spiritual practice. Look at me, I'm worried. Good time for spiritual practice. Look at me, I'm angry. Really good time for spiritual practice. That's the thing, right? Can you bring it into that moment right then and there, and then that's practice. when you're doing it in that moment, right then and there. And when you do that and you turn around and you start looking at how things really are working, that's when, incredible stuff, awesome stuff, the miraculous. The thing about it is underrated about spiritual practice is miracles. They're underrated. I believe that miracles are a skill. Creating the space for them to show up is a skill that I keep developing. Others I know keep developing. And in doing so, have something show up that was beyond even their expectations. So one of the things that happened this week also was Ash's birthday. And, sorry? Good man. Ash asked me to put together a ritual on her birthday, which included her children, her two girls. And so I'd never done a birthday ritual before. But that's what she wanted for her birthday, so I opened to the idea of that, and it downloaded. I got this download that I thought could be so cool, but could also be a complete train wreck, totally dependent upon the participation of her girls, right? How that was going to work out. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going for this. This is what came to me. I'm going for this. Trust. How many times in your life have you gotten a good idea and let your reason talk you out of it? Trust. And so I went forward with this idea, and it turned out beyond my expectations. How the girls participated, the depth and richness of it. And if I was stuck in worry and frustration about the talk I was delivering to you today, I would have missed that experience. When we get stuck in worry, when we get stuck in upset and frustration and think things are not working, we miss awesome. We miss the miracles that are possible. And I made sure I didn't this week. And so I got to experience them leading them through this ritual that was mind-blowing and touching and heartfelt. And Ash came to me after and said, "This is the best birthday ever." It's really, really nice being the husband being told this was the best birthday ever. You like being the recipient of things like that. I do. And so that's what's possible, right? When we let down the worry. And so that was Thursday. And I still don't have a talk for you guys. I have some ideas, but nothing's really coming together like I'm used to by Thursday. And so Friday comes along and I can finally take a walk. And so I get out and I'm walking on Friday, and it dawned on me that my talk was about what I'd been practicing all week, which has been trust in highest and best, happening at perfect and right time. It had been what I was practicing all week. And then it dawned on me, how often do we do that? That the thing that's right in front of us, we miss. We don't even see it. because we're so caught up in what we think it ought to look like. Right? And then so there it was, right before my eyes, and I broke out laughing. I was laughing so hard, thinking, oh my God, it was here all week. This is what I've been doing, and it took me to Friday to see it. But that's how it goes. I was just glad I saw it. Right? And so Friday, I'm starting to formulate, looking at the whole week, looking at what worked out that was great for the week. Looking back on the week going, it really was an extraordinary week. And then Alita's phone call on Friday talking to her about how she felt about our community. And we can be touched by so much when we're not like with the blinders, it's got to be this. I'm an A-type personality. Maybe I'm the only one. And so I have a tendency that when there's something that I want to get done, I'm focused on that and I'm getting it done. And one thing I've had to learn is get off the blinders. Allow things to unfold. And then yesterday was stunningly gorgeous. Now, here's yesterday, right? So the girls were supposed to leave on Friday, so I thought, finally, I'm going to get out to Elk Island on Saturday. Anybody who knows me knows I love going to Elk Island, and it's a great place for me to think. And their flights got canceled. And we're a one-car family. So I didn't get to go out to Elk Island. And if I had gone, I would have missed the most spectacular, extraordinary opening to the Olympics I have ever seen in my life. I was blown away by what they did. And if I was out at Elk Island, I would have missed that. What do you do when things don't go the way you'd hoped? Are you able to shift, to move, to reframe in a way that allows something else to come up? Now, after I watched the opening ceremonies, I went for my walk. And I put together what I hope has been a good talk for you guys. And that's how life can unfold for anyone. I am not special here. I am not some superhuman. Far, far, far from it. But I practice. And I practice every day. And I bring that practice into the moments that matter most. And I stick with it until I feel the shift. Because you can say affirmations from here to doomsday. If you stop before you feel the shift, you can meditate hours. If you stop before you feel the shift, what's it doing for you? Bringing it into those moments that matter most is what shifts life into something extraordinary. I did not freak out this week as I have many times in the past. And I am so grateful for how I was able to be with that all week so that I could experience those things in the week that were extraordinary. When we get thrown by the obstacles that we all deal with, right? Nobody's life is like smooth sailing for very long. Or am I the only one? We all have these parts of our lives. But when we are able to shift, use this teaching, use our spiritual practices, that's when the miraculous shows up in ways that we can't even imagine. I invite each and every one of you to join me in spiritual practice. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to live. It's not mystifying. It's simple, maybe not easy, but it's worth it. I love you. Thank you very much. Thank you.